going to be circulating this photo release form, and so please, if you don't mind your picture being taken this evening by Paul, who's right here, who's a great photographer, then just sign up and give us your email as well. You can also just approach Paul personally. Paul has also made it clear to me, since he's a master of light and shadow and illumination and necessary opacity at times, that he can also blur you if you would prefer to be blurred so that you are not recognizable and so on. He can do that, and I'm just amazed. In fact, I want to give a round of applause for the power of being blurred by Paul. Right. Thank you. We are going to get started soon, and my co-host, Jovial C, is right here. A round of applause for Jovial as well, just for being here. All right.
Thank you, George, and thank you, everyone. Really excited to spend the night with you, with everyone here. Thank you.
So we'll get started within the next 5 minutes. Within the next 5 minutes, definitely we're going to get started. And so in the meantime, I'll just circulate this photo release form. And just write your name and email and make sure we get this back to Paul. And so we're on our way shortly. I'll start over here, I guess. Sorry, one more announcement, quick announcement. There is a bar and a bartender. And so anyone would like to belly up to the bar before we get started, this would be a wonderful opportunity. And if you have to take care of something from the other end of your persons, there are facilities available for that purpose as well. So, okay, I think we'll get started in a moment. I just see there's a couple more people are arriving. Welcome. Um, and so so we'll introduce each other. I'll introduce you, then you'll introduce me, and then I'll do the land acknowledgement, and then you'll do the east and westward connections. Okay. And then you can introduce Aisha, and after Aisha does her poem, then we can both. No, then I'll come up and I'll introduce Karen. And as we go along, so for the next one, Luciano, you can introduce Luciano, and he'll read his poetry. And then I will come back and introduce, after he does his poetry, I'll come back and introduce James, and then you'll introduce Juliet, and then the song happens. And we'll just keep doing it like that as we go. Okay, that's all right? Okay. All right. I think there's everybody's basically here that should be here. All right. I think we can get started. Yeah. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin 5 poets breaking into song live. And thank you for that great spirited reception and welcome. We are delighted to be putting on this program this evening because it is the first poetry and music and song event to grace Toronto the Bad, the 6, Hogtown, the Big Smoke, since Bad Luck Friday, March the 13th, 2020. And long may that date disappear into the trash heaps of history.
Exactly.
Right on.
Exactly.
So it's now my pleasure to introduce Jovial C, and my co-host, our co-host this evening, and so I'm very, very happy to have Jovial with us, presenting our acts and our artistes this evening, our very talented performers this evening. Next stop, Hollywood, next stop, Bollywood, et cetera, et cetera. But Jovial C is an English Mandarin interpreter and translator by profession. She has a great interest in literature and music, and she is also an active volunteer in the Chinese community in Toronto. I present Jovial C.
Thank you so much, George. And good evening again, everyone. I think now it's my turn to introduce my very distinguished co-host, George Eliot Clark. So he was the first poet laureate of Toronto, that is from 2012 to 2015, and 7th poet laureate of Canada, which was from 2016 to 2017. The idea for 5 poets breaking into songs actually was born out of this prize-winning poet's Christmas present in 2020 for Giovanna Riccio. He asked James Rolfe to compose music for Giovanna's poem, Namesake, and then having it sung for her. Seeing the pleasure that this gift brought to everyone, George decided to commission James, as well as other musicians like Emily Hystra and Dee Jackson, to compose more, to turn more poems into songs, and to prove that poets are actually all excellent songwriters as well, as long as composers can get access to their works.
Thank you. And now, thank you, Giovanna. And we're going to continue our informal presentations and so on, but now it is time for the land acknowledgement. Here it is, and forgive me if I mispronounce anything. We would like to acknowledge we are on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit and the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, Huron-Wendat, and Haudenosaunee. We also fully embrace and respect that Toronto is governed by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee. This treaty requires them and invites any subsequent newcomers to share the territory and protect the land in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. East and West Learning Connections.
All right, yeah, indeed. Because I have been volunteering for East and West Learning Connections, which is acronymed as EAWLC for some time. So today, with immense pride, I would like to introduce this organization to you all. Actually, it is a federally registered organization, nonprofit organization based in Toronto. Its mission is to break the cultural barriers and connect people of different heritages. And it does so by offering learning, communication, and also volunteering opportunities to the public. The founder, Ms. Yan Wang of the organization, although unable to attend our event in person tonight, actually would like me to send her best wishes for great success of tonight's event, and also her delight that through collaborating with distinguished poets like George, and also organizations like the Canadian League of Poets, we are able to present excellent poems and also music pieces to people to enjoy. And indeed, it's our belief that by doing so, we can make continuous learning through our lifetime, as well as connection of people of different backgrounds into real, to make that happen, to turn that into reality. And equally important, to do it in a very fun way.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jovial. And I also just want to add to what Jovial just said, our profound thanks to the Transact Club for making the space available this evening, despite insurance companies being difficult to work with. And we also want to, again, send a deep shout out and wishes for the swift recovery of Yang Wang, who had a bicycle accident, which is why she's not able to be here this evening, but she's recovering very well. And I just want to add very quickly that we love East and West Learning Connections and everything that they do.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, Jovial. And now,
oh, yeah, indeed. Okay, yeah, I really feel honored and humbled that I have the opportunity to introduce amazing poets and musicians. So that's why sometimes I think tonight there are many, actually, butterflies in my stomach. Anyways, I sure Chatterjee has authored 2 poetry books, translated into French, Russian, Slovene, and regrettably not in Mandarin yet, but maybe I can help with that. Her work actually is read worldwide. Aisha is past president of the Language of Canadian Poets and chair of the League's Feminist Caucus. She's a Torontonian, but her heart is Indian.
Thank you. That was a really lovely introduction. Can I just start out by saying a massive thank you, George, for organizing this. I think you pretty much willed this event. I mean, you were so determined, so optimistic. I think you got all of Ontario to behave so that this could happen. So massive thank you to you. And to Transact for offering us this space to read and sing and gather. It's sort of amazing to me to be here and not be squinting into my laptop and talking at myself, and also not to be praying that my cats don't take over the performance, which has happened. Surreal. Happy Diwali to everyone, and happy Kali Puja. Really lovely evening to be doing this, very auspicious, and I'm very excited, and I have butterflies in my stomach too, I have to tell you. So I'd like to start out with one poem before we get to the musical section, and I'd like to read from my collection, Bottles and Bones, which is a collection that really deals with the sense of smell and fragrances and perfumes, and really what it is a tribute to my mother, who used to love perfumes. She died in 2015, and although there are quite a few poems in here that are actually about her and specifically for her, I haven't really trusted myself to read any of them because I wasn't confident that I'd be able to get through them without chewing up a bit, but I think it's time. So here is Rose Absolute. It's winter, and the roses are in bloom. My mother folds the sheets into perfect warmth, the afternoon a haze of grit. They will say one day, she used to do this then, or this, or that, but not yet. Her gesture lingers on a pillow, lavender perhaps, or lily of the valley. Something stronger, vetiver, clove. It's winter, and the ice flakes off the dark flesh of the lake, leaving it rippled and old. Hard to imagine sweat in the white knife of the seagull's wings, in the white roofs of the boats, in the white necks of the swans. Once, I woke and found my parents in bed with me, and strangers in theirs, as though I'd woken from one dream into another, as if everything I'd feared were real. There were no seasons then. No roses, no ice, just crisply folded out lines and a child's content. So I've been working with David Jagger, who's an incredible composer, and Karen Usha, whose voice you will hear in a few minutes, well over a year now on songs, and we've actually got a repertoire together of quite a few songs. I don't know, did you want to introduce them, or shall I just go ahead? Oh, okay.
But that's a good beginning.
Okay, so we were going to go straight into the musical section, so did you want to introduce them? And
Yes.
okay.
Just because, but you've been doing a great job.
All right.
Yeah, wonderful. Round of applause, please. Thanks for Saturday. And yes, we have a prepared text and so on, but so I will introduce Karen, and Jovial will introduce David. How's that? Is that all right? Okay. Yeah. All right. So to introduce Karen, here we go, Karen Usha, a soprano who transcends her classical training. Karen Usha augments her impressive versatility in a variety of genres via collaborations with artists and educators, thus creating memorable musical experiences. Sri Lankan by birth, Toronto-based Karen's whole life has been about singing, practically from the cradle and crib to the concert hall and command recitals.
Wow, I hope my introduction of David Jagger can be as passionate as George. Let me try. David Jagger is a Toronto composer, music producer, and broadcaster who helped foster CBC radio music from 1972 to 2013. He created iconic shows like 2 New Hours featuring contemporary music, and in the early 1970s, David pioneered digital sound synthesis, and in 1971 co-founded the Canadian Electronic Ensemble. Sorry, David, I'm afraid that my lackluster introduction doesn't do you justice. I sincerely apologize for that.
It's excellent. Jovial. Excellent.
Would you like to come up, Karanusha? So we've got 2 songs that we'd like to showcase today. 2 pieces, I should say. The first one that we're going to do is called "What Is This Song?" Duet for 2 Regent honey eaters. And just to give you a little bit of background, Regent honey eaters are a critically endangered Australian songbird. They used to be really common, particularly in cities, but they are now so rare that the male bird doesn't know what it's supposed to sing because it doesn't, there aren't other older male birds for it to listen to. And so it now mimics the songs of other birds. And as a result, the females don't respond and are less likely to mate, which, you know, it's heartbreaking. It's entirely due to human action. It's because of urbanization and loss of habitat. And it's heartbreaking because of that. But the other thing that sort of really struck me about this is the parallel with human experiences. If you think about immigration and people who move from one country to another and lose their languages and their cultures because of that. It's just, you know, it's what happens. Or indigenous cultures whose language is erased, and that happens across the world. So that's kind of what I was thinking about when I wrote the poem, which David has very, very beautifully set to music, specifically for Karanusha's voice. She's got an extraordinary voice, and she'll be singing a cappella. So we'll be doing this sort of in tandem. The song is in 2 parts. The poem and song are in 2 parts. I will read the first part, which is the male, and then she'll sing, and then I'll read the second part, which is the female, and then she'll sing. Okay, so what is this song? Duet for 2 Regent honey eaters. 1. How is it that a voice can mimic sound meticulously, but be wrong? That shape and color can blur, and regency become another word for other. How do you lose something you never had? To listen well, to memorize a language, to belong, to survive.
Shape
I've friends enough. I know you're there, but I am colorblind. Find your voice. Survival depends on it. I told you she was marvelous. Okay, we've got one more piece, and it is a very, very short one, and it's from Bottles and Bones, and it's only 3 lines. An absence of everything. The way the bed breathes as the quilt settles over you, and then it stops. Thank you.
Introduce Luciano Iacobelli, who is a Toronto poet with 6 books to his credit. And he is also a visual artist. He owns and operates Lyrical Miracle Press. I hope I pronounce it correctly. This is a very interesting name, which specializes in handmade poetry chapbooks. He was also the founder and owner of Quarto Books. And also, that actually is an organization or a vital press devoted to publishing novels.
And poetry.
Oh, yeah, and poetry as well. Otherwise, Luciano won't be here tonight.
One second, sure.
Get your own personal microphone here.
That's important. I'm actually very honored. Could you guys hear? Sound good? Now you could hear me. This is sound. Thank you. Yes. I'm very honored to be here, and thank you, George, for inviting me, for recognizing that I, too, am a woman. And this was confirmed, a woman. This was confirmed when I forgot my reading glasses at home, and I had to rush to the Dollarama, and I said, "Do you have reading glasses?" And the lady said, "Only women's reading glasses." And I said, "This is the universe telling me that I, too, am a woman." So it's not appropriation, is it? No? No, that's okay. Okay. So unless I dress like one and act like, very good. So the piece that was set to music is entitled and then a second dream. And it's from this book entitled Dollar Midnight, which is a book centered on the world of gambling and gambling loss. And the piece that you're going to hear sung is actually the second part of a longer poem, the poem that comes before it. It can also be read as a separate piece, but it is also the conclusion of the poem that comes before. What I'm going to do is read the full poem. It takes about 4 minutes, so I timed this. I'm not going to be here for more than 5 minutes, George. Good. So rest assured. I'm glad you didn't talk before me, because it's like following Jimi Hendrix, and I can't do that. I'm glad you stayed quiet. Okay, so this poem is about how one feels after a major loss the night before. The new day's clamor, noise of drill, engines hammer, bottles dumped into recycling truck, transparencies crashing into other transparencies, transparencies crushed. A portion of the night's silence lingers on in objects. The cup on the nightstand, the statuette on the bookshelf are one-way mirrors. Dead sciences observe me. The losing lottery tickets on the dresser are paper skies, tiny evacuated heavens with all the stars vacuumed out. What did I lose? How much did I borrow? The dripping faucet is an indecipherable response. Breakfast is the flavorless hole between earth and heaven. Taste has disappeared the way a fist does when the hands open. I look out the window to my neighbor's oak. The tree is impassive. I would like to be so reduced. But this universe did not include me in the vegetable kingdom, nor did it make me a dumb element, fluid, mineral, gas, stone, dust, did not give me entrance into a blank community. Last night, I dreamed sharp stones, broken shells, led me to a hidden picnic. A family dressed in white sat between the corn stalks, invited me to share their food and comfort. A baby crow hopped happily between the fallen crumbs. And then a second dream. Beached on my lawn where at night I cool my feet, the small patch of grass miraculously stretched into a playing field, was a decomposing whale, a stranded sublimity, an exiled size, a deleted portion of the sea's magnitude, a proportion decommissioned by the universe. An evacuation of all the blessings ever bestowed on the animal, exiled the blowhole, a swarm of fireflies. Had I known the water would creep this far inland, I would have moved to higher ground, avoided the putrefaction, the meat and blubber decaying into cracked icons, baptismal fonts, broken pews, organ pipes. And one of the eyes was an altar, strewn with ashes and playing chips, scattered card decks with disintegrating suits, evidence of a game terminated long ago. a smell of loss in the air, weighing down the atmosphere, a failed and final gamble. Thank you.
Right. Wow. Wow. Holy smokes. I think I'm supposed to use this mic, so I'll be fast. I want to introduce James Rolfe, the composer, but I just want to say very quickly to ad lib, wow, Luciano. And I also want to say, wow, Aisha Chatterjee, and wow, Karen Usha. Wow, what an evening we are being treated to already this evening. All right, I know everybody in Toronto who's not here is feeling jealous. And they're going to be feeling bad about themselves. And they're right, feel bad about themselves. So, the composer, par excellence, Monsieur James Rolfe. His music has been commissioned and performed by ensembles, orchestras, choirs, and opera companies in Canada and abroad, and recognized with a Guggenheim Fellowship, a Jules Leger Prize, and Dora and Juno Award nominations, and that's just the beginning.
And I think the musician I'm going to introduce is equally stunning. That's Julia Palmer, whose music has found its way to a highway off-ramp, a swimming pool, a boxing ring, and to concert halls across North America, Europe, as well as Oceania. Hailing from New Zealand, Julia now makes her home in Toronto.
Thanks so much. Thanks for coming, everybody. It still boggles the mind to be in person. Take off a mask. It's like, wow. It's a lovely treat, and my thanks, of course, first go to George, who, without him, no evening tonight. He's put me in touch with some wonderful poets, and certainly the work that Luciano has offered and he's just read really kind of left off the page for me. It's a really vivid dream, and we'll sing it for you. And then a second dream. Beached on my lawn, where at night I cool my feet, the small patch of grass miraculously stretched into a playing field was a decomposing whale, a stranded sublimity, an exiled size, a deleted portion of the sea's magnitude, a proportion decommissioned by the universe, an evacuation of all the blessings ever bestowed on the animal, exited the blowhole, a swarm of fireflies. Had I known the water would creep this far inland, I would have moved to higher ground, avoided the putrefaction, the meat and blubber decaying into cracked icons and baptismal font, broken pews and organ pipes, and one of the eyes was an altar strewn with ashes and playing chips, scattered decks with disintegrating suits, evidence of a game terminated long ago, a smell of loss in the air weighing down the atmosphere, a failed and final gamble, a failed and final gamble, a failed and final gamble.
Wow. Once again, I want to thank James and Juliet, and you'll be hearing them both again very, very shortly. But now it is our tremendous, exciting duty to introduce Giovanna Riccio, who is a philosophy graduate from the University of Toronto, the author of Victorio from Luch's Lyrical Miracle Press, 2010, Strong Bread from Luch's Quattro Books, 2011, and Plastics Republic, Guernica Editions, 2019, and just very recently, this news just in, Giovanna is the 2021 winner of the Venera Fazio Poetry Prize. Ladies and gentlemen, Giovanna Riccio.
Which microphone is short enough for me? Can you hear me all right? Thank you. Aren't these people wonderful? Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I guess I have to thank George. George! It's wonderful how you got this evening together. So, yeah, anyway, thank you very much, George, for everything. And he did commission that first poem, which I'm going to read, Namesake, with James, and had somebody record it and presented it to me on Christmas morning as a big surprise, and then it turned into an enterprise. As you can see, George never does things half-heartedly or halfway. So here we are with almost a full album, I'm sure, ready to go. So, and thanks to the Transact Club. I know how difficult it is to host live events at this time, and so it's really wonderful that they were able to do this evening. And I want to thank James for composing such a beautiful piece for this poem. This poem is called Namesake. James has a shorter version because it's a bit long, and but I am going to, like Luciano, read the whole poem. I'll just give you a bit of background. It's called Namesake because it tells the story of how I took my name back. back in the day, when you enrolled in this wonderful colonized country, they would anglicize your name. So I came as Giovanna, little girl, and on the day I went into school, and I came out as Joan. Yes, so this is how I took my name back. A small stranger was waving from a faraway Italian port. Every night she crept through the crevices of my broken sleep and tugged on my spinal cord, pointing to that hard country that had sent me away. I can still see the oak floor, the teacher unrolling my R's, clipping my name, Joan. Joan? I don't know if that blunt one syllable turned my head, but everywhere English flattened Italian. And when my father snipped my impractical long hair, I looked away, pretended those orphaned ringlets belonged to someone else. Blonde, blue-eyed goddesses who never ate garlic occupied the temples of the Golden Book Encyclopedia. The face of ancient Rome belonged to our teacher now. But blinded statues and picture books, old sun threaded in the cracks of fallen ruins, were calling. When the column in my spine shifted, my bones stiffened to keep in that mute, abandoned stranger. That summer, she beckoned, carved messages into my aching soldiers and unyielding sacrum. She seized my hip joints and forced me toward her fluttering hand. My fingers clutched the boarding pass. I remember the airplane lifting me to a warm, unknowing sleep. Sudden morning opening onto old stone. July heat rusting on palm trees, resting on palm trees, wind-cupped in the umbrella pines, and everywhere taxis. I rode back into my dusty body, into Rome's dusky fall, echoing in stone. I wandered with tourists into the growling navel of the Colosseum. Mad emperors, gypsies, soothsayers wove into the crowd. I wove into an ancient stand of columns, not knowing anymore who to walk with, but walking, the cobblestones rippling through my heels, my hands cooled by modest waters of the turtle fountain at the entrance of the old Jewish ghetto. I don't remember climbing, only standing eye level with billowing cupolas and angels stepping off buildings. From the Italian stone, my numbed blood flowed naturally. I heard my name calling from the balcony, Giovanna. Our old housebound language, free in rowdy streets, songs we hummed sotto voce, singing at the tops of their voices. I rested, leaning on the smoky marble's mineral veins. Everywhere there were steps, steps leading to cathedrals, museums, ornate palazzos, carefully chiseled waves narrowing away from the crowd, rising toward doors opening in, doors I kept opening to dance with Etruscan women and talk with Vittoria Colonna to find Queen Giovanna of Naples. Impossible stone flowed everywhere that summer. Familiar figures I had never seen before gestured to me from rooftops, and because I could accept the gesture, the blunt sound softened. My tongue, my bones grew more porous, and the child I had locked away flowed out of the hardness into my voice and gave me my name.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just now I was so mesmerized by James singing. that I decided I'm going to use my privilege as the co-host to invite him and Julia, to come up to the stage again.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Giovanna, it was such a pleasure to hear you read this poem, which, again, jumped off the page, and song practically wrote itself. So here it is, Namesake. I can still see the oak floor, the teacher unrolling my R's, clipping my name. Joan. Joan? I don't know if that blunt one syllable turned my head, but everywhere English flattened Italian. And when my father snipped my impractical long hair, I looked away, pretended those orphaned ringlets belonged to someone else. Blonde, blue-eyed goddesses who never ate garlic filled the temples of the Golden Book Encyclopedia. The face of ancient Rome belonged to our teacher now, but blinded statues and pictures, old sun threaded in the cracks of fallen ruins, were calling me. Later, my fingers clutched the boarding pass. I remember the airplane lifting me to a warm, unknowing sleep. Sudden morning opening onto old stone, July heat resting on palm trees, wind cupped in the umbrella pines, and everywhere taxis. I rode back into my dusty body, into Rome's dusky fall, echoing in the stone. From the Italian stone my numbed blood flowed naturally. I heard my name calling from the balcony, Giovanna. Our old housebound language free in the rowdy streets. Songs we hummed sotto voce, singing at the top of their voices. I rested, leaning on the smoky marble's mineral veins. Impossible stone flowed everywhere that summer. Familiar figures I had never seen before gestured to me from the rooftops. And because I could accept the gesture, the blunt sound softened my tongue. My bones grew more porous. And the child I had locked away flowed out of the hardness into my voice and gave me my name and gave me my name.
I'm just totally speechless, and that's a very good thing. But I just want to comment very briefly and succinctly, once again, on the transporting power of music. reaching its highest possibilities of touching the soul, S-O-U-L, in combination with words that have been given these wings of notes and vocalization, which is the closest thing that we have to civilizing heaven itself. So it gives me great pleasure now to introduce Lisa Richter, a Toronto poet, writer, and teacher. Her poetry books are Closer to Where We Began, and Nautilus and Bone from Frontenac House 2020, which is the winner of the Canadian Jewish Literary Award for Poetry and the National Jewish Literary Award for Poetry from the U.S., amongst other honors. Ladies and gentlemen, Lisa Richter.
Oh boy, hi. Well, there's real people in 3D. I mean, with my laptop, like, do I have to adjust it? Or I feel like I'm so used to doing that. I'm just gonna put the mask down. So do that. Wow, I'm so thrilled and delighted. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, we're good. Thank you so much to George for this extraordinary and magical experience. I'm still kind of pinching myself that it all really happened and that everybody's here. And when George invited me to be part of this incredible event and that one of my poems could be put to music, I immediately thought of the brilliant composer Emily Himstra, who had reached out to me only, I don't know, the year before, maybe 6 months before, to discuss possibly collaborating on something like an operetta. And so Emily was the first person who came to mind when this opportunity presented itself. So I'm going to be reading a poem from my collection, Nautilus and Bone, which describes and tells the story of the Yiddish poet Anna Margolin, who was a Russian-American Jewish poet from the early 20th century, who lived a very unconventional life and was a trailblazer in many ways, even though she was marginalized, as so many women were and continue to be within the canon of Yiddish poetry, or within poetry more broadly. And the poem that I'm going to read that was put to music is actually in 3 parts. So I'm going to read the entire poem, and then you will hear the first section put to music. This whole reading glasses thing is kind of new for me. Just kind of getting the hang of it. Thanks for bearing with me, everyone. Jewess. 1. Don't call me Jewess. Call me hellfire and fishhooks. The moon as it violets the earth in mollusk silver shadow, papered with yellowed envelopes and wheat. Call me pale skins stretched into backlit sails. Call me opium milk rose, a comet's saliva trail spittling the blue globe. Call me abacus. Call me the bespoke noose you wind in loops around your fingers. The tangerine light that shimmies through curtains as evening sidles in steady advance towards you. The burnished apple's high scarlet gloss, a windpipe's hollow moan. Call me newsreel, hollyhock, sundial, astrolabe. the peacock's shimmering cyanide blues and gangrene greens, the rusted latch from the outhouse door that claws open and warms to your calloused clasp, an iodine sunset swelling across a wound. 2. Jewess, the feminine ESS, the S doubled, 2 snakes brandished like iron daggers in each hand of the Minoan goddess. Add a final E to make Jewess, if you like, for an extra Chaucerian besmearing. Insolent as Lilith, seditious as Eve. Murky, dark, hairy, hook-nosed, her boulder breasts linking venom and ink. She throws the evil eye, turning men into writhing eels. Between her legs, the mouth of the bear's cave, musky as wintered sleep, matted, slick, and deadly as the excretions of insects lurking for their prey. Beneath her crude leather shoes, worn from treading the stone paths around peasants' cottages and hexing them, the devil's horn bunions extrude from the sides of her feet. She crows for blood, aches for tissue and tendon. She, not the Jew himself, is the true threat, the real enemy. Dream thief, genius of treason, corrupter of Gentile children. The forger, the smuggler, pain bringer, wart giver, crop assassin, beguiler of horses, she-wolf, bulbous, vicious, destroyer of villages, greedy temptress of husbands. Beware her crooked teeth, her spindly legs, her manly arms, her mustachioed upper lip, sharp whiskers poking like stubs of dry grass. She will do everything you have feared you wanted, everything you have wanted to fear. 3. Hang me on your boudoir wall in a frame of Nautilus and Bone. Shadowbox me for your velvet-lined safe. Take me in your philandering arms. It's a small world reflected in a monocled looking pool sky. On your command, I will tarantella, glaze my lips with crimson wax. Beneath your gaze, my hands grow heavy with rubies bedecking my willow switch fingers. Watch me now as I machete my own hair, lavish my skin with tattoos, peel away language you have adhered to my body in the drape of night. When you ask me my name, where I come from, I will unhook my tongue, unfurl the snow-sheathed steps, rippling in the mind's phantasmagoria, and say to you, I was born on a jutting arm over the mouth of the volcano and raised in the succulent cumulus of heaven. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow, I feel really amazed by the myriad of images in this poem. And I think maybe you will be equally eager as me to listen to Emily Hamster's music to render this amazing poem. Especially I'm curious because my feeling is that in addition to the mastery of words per se, Lisa is also a master of color. For instance, I hear quite some colors in her poem just now, like mollusk, silver, violet, and the yellowed envelope, that's the yellow color, and also the color of, and also she mentioned wheat, so that should be another kind of yellow color. So I'm actually curious to listen to Emily's music and to see whether the music, the melody, can also bring a bring some pictures in my mind's eye of all the images depicted in this poem. So, yeah, Emily, actually, she is a violinist, composer, and a real-life viola mom to 3 boys under 4. Wow, that also is an achievement. Of course, Emily is also a Juno-nominated composer. Her music, deemed superb and extremely resonant, has thrilled transatlantic audiences. And as a violinist, she has wowed folks from Banff, Canada to Berlin, Germany. So Emily, now the floor is yours.
And as we welcome Emily, we are also welcoming Adam Hugh, who believes that classical music is for everyone. A University of Toronto graduate with a master's in piano performance. Adam is now a worship director at the appropriate church, which of course is Baptist, and while remaining an active all-around Toronto solo pianist, chamber musician, and paper artist. Emily Yenser, Adam.
Well, thank you, George and Jobio, for those wonderful introductions. It really is an honor and a pleasure to be here. And I want to say thank you to Lisa as well. It's just been a joy to work with you, to work with a poet. I think the combination of artistic groups coming together has been something really special. And it's been a real treat to get to know your work and the history and your work with Anna Margolin. So I hope you enjoy this piece.
Spittling the blue glow. Call me Abacus. Call me the bespoke noose you wind in loops around your fingers. The tangerine light that shimmies through curtains as evening sidles in steady advance towards you. The burnished apple's high scarlet gloss, the windpipe's hollow moan. Call me, newsreel hollyhock, sundial astrolabe, the peacock shimmering cyanide blues and gangrene greens. The rusted latch from the outhouse door
conjunction of the music and the imagery and the notes and so forth, transporting us once again in the wake of or rather augmenting the uplifting experience that this evening has been already, and continues. I can't believe it's going too fast. It's going too fast. Crying out loud. So here we are. I can't believe we're already after 8 o'clock. It's terrible news. But I do want to introduce someone who is absolutely a gifted presence in the Transact Club in terms of the reading series that she runs and which is based here. So I am talking about, of course, Banu Zan, who has published more than 200 poems and other materials, other works, as well as 3 books, including Songs of Exile, 2016, and Letters to My Father, 2017. In 2012, she founded Shabbat Shir, Poetry Night, Toronto's most diverse and brave poetry reading and open mic series. Ladies and gentlemen, Banu Zan.
Thank you. Salam. Hello. My name is Banu Zan. I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here, my fellow artists, the wonderful organizers and hosts, the venue, and people who are here to support us. So I have a few poems for you. I start with the one that came out recently in this magazine whose editors and contributors are all refugees and immigrants like myself. It's published in the UK, and this poem I just recently heard has been nominated for Pushcart Prize. So this poem came out of my, came out of my observation of how the literary scene goes. A lot of Western and North American literary magazines have disclaimers to this effect on their submission pages. We do not publish work that includes racism, bigotry, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, ableism, etc. So this is to the editors. If my poem glorifies Islam, you accept it. But if it critiques my fellow Muslims, you reject it. If it invites sympathy for the displaced, you publish it. But if it exposes violence in immigrant communities, you reject it. If it denounces a Western politician, you feature it. But if it denounces the dictator in my home country, you reject it. in your pages, my religion is perfect. My community is perfect. My country is perfect. You exercise self-critique, the authentic critique, but deny me the same right. No one is healed by claiming they're healthy and have the lie taken for truth. No community is perfect, neither yours nor mine. I wonder how long it will take for my people to question our ways, to stop murdering, torturing, raping ourselves, to stop oppressing ourselves, to stop our unending exodus to your part of the world, only to be told we cannot criticize ourselves. Meanwhile, dictators sincerely thank you for your support. The next poem actually is a song. It's an old Iranian song published in 1927, actually released in 1927, 9 years before the Kashf Hijab decree, the unveiling decree by Reza Shah Pahlavi. The composer and the poet are anonymous. Their guesses, they're attributed, the poem and the composition are attributed to Muhammad Ali Amir Jahid and Morteza Neydavud, who was a Jewish Iranian. But they may have preferred to stay anonymous for fear of backlash from religious hardliners. The song was first performed by the legendary female singer Qamar al-Muluk Waziri. Qamar was the first Iranian female singer who went on stage in public without hijab. It is worth noting that to this very day, right now that I'm talking to you, freedom from compulsory hijab is still one of the significant demands of the Iranian women's movement. So I first read it in, the poem was translated by me. It's originally, of course, in Persian. I translated it into English, and Sai Strom, sitting over there, versified it. So it's actually a song. Composers can't think about that. So I first read it in Persian, and then in English. دختران سیروس تا به کی در افسوس زیر دست مردان تا به چند محبوس در چنین محیطی دختران ساسان تا به کی خموشی ای زنان ایران هیچ کس خبر نیست فکر خیر و شر نیست ای رجال ایران زن مگر بشر نیست چند در حجابی تا به کی به خوابی از وجود شیخ است این همه خرابی مملکت خراب است ملتش به خواب است ای زنان ملت وقت انقلاب است دختران ملت تا به کی به ذلت برکنید از سر چادر مذلت Daughters of great Cyrus, how long will you fret? Under yoke of men, how long will you bend? Here upon this land, daughters of Sasan, how long to be silent, women of Iran? For good, no one does care. Of evil, none's aware. Menfolk of Iran, aren't women human too? How long in your hijab? How long to be asleep? Learn the reason for this wreck, The reason is the sheik. The country is in ruin. The nation is asleep. Women of the nation, it is time for revolution. Daughters of the nation, how long will you suffer? From your head, tear the chador of dishonor. That gesture is the gesture that some women who oppose compulsory hijab do that in the streets of Iran and get arrested. Now, it's time for the poem that has been composed on by, has been the material for composition by the phenomenal James Rolfe. Comes from Songs of Exile, Phoenix number 4. With locks of fire and eyes of ice, uttering eloquent silence, disrobing me of my habit, life put a dagger in my hands. With lips laboring in love and heart beating hate, wrinkles young as yesterday, beauty old as news, and charisma alluring as pain, stopping me out of the three with euphoric wisdom. Life put hemlock in my hands. With a face of a stone and hands of water, her womb blossoming and her breasts flowing, her body aroused and her spirit asleep. Life put death in my hands. With a dagger in his heart and hemlock to his lips, philosophy in his groin and passion in his brain, silencing eloquent speech with celestial song. Death put life in my hands. Thank you.
What a powerful statement. So let's invite the prolific James and Julia to perform Banu's very thought-provoking and very sharp-witted verses.
Thank you. Can I get a bit of light? No? Okay. Okay. Hey. Oh. Yeah, a bit more. Yeah. Yay. Thanks. That was wonderful, Banu, to hear you read, and hard act to follow, actually, but we'll try. Here's Phoenix 4, the song. With looks of fire and eyes of ice, uttering eloquent silence, disrobing me of my habit, life put a dagger in my hands. With lips laboring in love and heart-beating hate, wrinkles young as yesterday, beauty old as news, and charisma alluring as pain. Life put hemlock in my hands. With a face of stone and hands of water, her womb blossoming and her breasts flowing, her body aroused and her spirit asleep. Life put death in my hands. With a dagger in his heart and hemlock on his lips, philosophy in his groin and passion in his brain, silencing eloquent speech with celestial song. Death put life in my hands. Death put life in my hands.
Unfortunately, we have come to the end of our program.
So sad. Yeah, George. please improvise a poem for tonight.
Oh, jovial. Okay, you put me on the spot.
Why not? Because I have confidence in you. I trust you can do it and do it very well.
I could, but let me see. Okay. Thank you so much for asking me to recite something, to read something. I'm going to read a poem from this book called Red, and actually this has been put to music by James, and really effectively. The poem is called To the Poet, and it's actually, this is one of those poems. It's actually a rewriting of a translation from Pushkin, who of course wrote in Russian. But I never liked the translation that Constance Garnett did back in the 1930s. As far as I was concerned, she was like too plain. And Pushkin was a passionate guy. I mean, he died in a duel, for crying out loud. So he was, he was not a guy who could have like an easygoing kind of translation. So I figured I should like just jazz it up and bring some more life to it. With no apologies to Constance Garnett, this is my rewriting of her translation of Alexander Pushkin's poem, To the Poet. Poet, damn you if you crave public love. People clap raucously, then fickle, stop. Fools don scholars' tassels, bray their critiques while crowds hoorays, chill or scald your marrow. Best to stand, Caesar calm, statue austere, its majesty, yes, to dwell defiant, castled in your own soul. Free and aloof, perfect your flowers. Distill their dream liqueurs, but ignore all praise of your past confections. Judge for yourself your vineyard's heady wine. Your strict taste dictates its vintage sweetness. Do you want joy? Let the pack bay and howl. Let them snarl and spit on your altar's flames and breathe your temple's triumphant perfumes. Alexander Pushkin.
Wow.
Jovial.
Amazing.
All right. We got another performance here. All right. James Rolfe, Juliet Palmer. Amen.
Okay, another tough act to follow, but we're gonna try. Poet, damn you if you crave public love. People clap raucously, then fickle stop. Fools don a scholar's tassels, bray their critiques, while crowds hurrays chill or scald your marrow. Best to stand a Caesar calm, a statue austere. Its majesty, yes, to dwell defiant, castled in your own soul, free and aloof. Perfect your flowers, distill their dream liquors, but ignore all praise of your past confections. Judge for yourself your vineyard's heady wine. Your strict taste dictates its vintage sweetness. Do you want joy? Let the pack bay and howl. Let them snarl and spit on your altar's flames and breathe your temple's triumphant perfumes. Your temple's triumphant perfumes.
All right. We do not want this evening to end. We don't want it to end, but here we are. We're at the end, and I want to thank James and Juliet for that very, very lovely surprise of that performance. But I also want to ask all the poets and the singers and the pianists to come up and take a bow at the very least for the excellence of their artistry tonight. It has just been so tremendous. And if Paul is able to capture everybody in a socially distanced mass photo, please do. If you can do that, that would be great. But I really would like to ask all the singers and poets and pianists to gather up here with us, and so we can have a collective, and
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And George, actually, I don't think the event has ended. I believe everyone has now got some very excellent things to take back home and may still remember it long after this event is over.
That's so excellent. That is so true. So, how do we do this?
More people here. I mean, if we could.
All right. Some of us could go on the stage.
Or the tall people go behind.
Or the tall
Oh,
people
okay.
go.
Unmasked is, I think, okay, because,
People go behind.
all right, tall people go. I'm not that tall. Very good.
Yes.
How's that? Paul, are we okay? Carrie, that was excellent.
I guess we're going.
That was excellent.
The mics are kind of in the way, no? Like, maybe we should move the mics away?
They want to see who we are. All right, well, I'll meet you over in the bar. Or I'll find you with it. I'm going to talk to you. Yeah, okay. Oh, well, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sorry, I have to hold your hand.
George?
Oh, yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to make the quick announcement that some of us have merch and are able to make change for anyone who might be interested in making a purchase. And I know that some poets and maybe musicians, singers have merch available, and so don't be shy to approach and ask if there's something available. All right, and a round of applause for Jovial C. Thank you.